Hey guys, Scott here. Today we're looking at the developer update for November 2023. Big outliers are the MFT changes and Trickster changes, but a couple of other good map design changes as well. First up, starting with we have the new player card feature, which they talked about a while ago. Basically, it's a little cosmetic badge that you can add to your profile. It'll be in the top right of your main screen over here, and also in the post game, it'll be right here in this spot. Now, they haven't really gone over the ways that you can acquire these other than generic stuff like the tome and doing the rift and events and things like that, login rewards, promotion. So I'm hoping they shy a bit more away from that style and more like, hey, you get a cool huntress emblem if you hit 100 long range hatchets. You have that skilled huntress achievement, or if you're a prestige 100, you have like a 100 symbol. I hope it's more things that you earn through gameplay and less so through store codes and just quick little challenges on the tome and rift and stuff like that. I want it to be things that you actually earn. So when you see somebody that has like a really hard to get emblem, then it's actually something like, oh shit, that guy has that. That's really cool. That's what I hope it moves towards. It seems really simple. They're just little PNGs you slap on there. So I can't imagine devs are going to be really hard pressed to make a lot of new ones there. So it seems like as long as they stick with that mindset with the system, that could be really cool. And it'll have some form of expression that we really don't have at all in this game, since you can't see MMR or anything like that. Rank doesn't matter. Probably the only thing that means you played a lot is prestige being really high, but even then I've seen terrible prestige 100 players. So I don't know. I think that'd be cool if we had something that actually was hard to get for people, and then have a bunch of easy ones too, so everyone can benefit from it. Next, the Trickster, which is not really a change I expected to see in any way, because Trickster is one of those characters, like, yeah, they're annoying to go against. They can be strong in certain scenarios. They can be weak in certain scenarios. But for the most part, people don't really enjoy him in general. Maybe that's why. Maybe his pick rate was very low, because it was pretty rare to see a Trickster, honestly. And the reason is he would be unsatisfying on both sides. As killer, it would kind of suck if you were in an area where you hit, 5 knives in somebody, but then they just get out of line of sight and then they start regenerating and they don't take damage, and that doesn't feel good. As a survivor, it feels like trying to dodge the knives is pointless because he's shooting them over and over again. It's not like you commit to one dodge action like you would dodge a huntress, and you see the results of that action and it feels good to have dodged it. But Trickster is just like knife, 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 knife. So it's just, you're just basically running straight and hoping that there's stuff in the way. It wasn't really engaging gameplay, honestly, for either side. So it seems like they want to try to adjust that. Now, whether or not they succeeded, I don't know. I've briefly went over these changes, and I think this is going to be something we have to test. But it does seem to me, in theory, the Trickster is significantly stronger, because the buffs that they got do not match the slight nerf that they got to the amount of knives it takes to actually trigger a damaging state. So, first thing that's changing is Trickster now throws 4 blades a second down to 3. So it used to be you would throw, I didn't know the exact number, but you would throw, let's say, 3 blades per second by default. And then it would slowly over time build up to like 4, blades thrown per second. So it'd be like like that. So now it's just right off the start, which is a significant increase. There were add-ons that used to reduce the time it took to get to that max throw rate, but now you just instantly get max throw rate, which is very, very significant. Now, to counter that, they've increased the laceration hits back to 8. I believe it was 8 on release, or 7 or something like that. It's been 6 for a while. But they have made it back up to 8, and the time it takes for the knives to decay on you is now 10 seconds instead of 15. Now, their idea was that the laceration meter will fill at the same rate as before, but successfully dodging will be a little more rewarding. So they're trying to incentivize player interaction, which I understand and respect. They want actually dodging the knives to be a meaningful thing that happens. I'm not sure if these changes are going to put us quite there. It's still not going to be the same thing as dodging a Wesker charge or dodging a Hunter's Hatchet or dodging a Deathslinger shot. These are things you can see the immediate reaction and result of. You immediately get the reward for doing it. This, you might buy yourself another half a second. It's not clear exactly. This is something that we need to play with to give a really good opinion on. Lastly, recoil has been completely removed. I'm not going to lie. I could have sworn I saw a patch note like a year ago that said that they removed recoil already. Maybe they said they significantly reduced it or something, but I don't even remember him having recoil. And I don't know why I'm thinking that. Maybe it's just very minor, but his recoil is very tiny if it does exist. So will this even have a tangible effect? I'm not sure. But if anything, if it did have a small recoil, it'd be a little bit better now. It still alternates left and right, so you're still coming from different shots every time you throw. But I guess if there was a little bit of recoil, then it is now non-existent. And that's mostly to make it easier for console players, because adjusting with recoil with controller is very tough. Now, next change, this is massive. Trickster is now a normal movement speed killer. He moves at 115 compared to the 110 he used to be. Most ranged killers are 110. He is now 115. Now, to compensate, his terror radius is now 32, but he also had a lullaby before, so that doesn't really change very much because you could still hear him coming from that far away. So that doesn't really do much. This is basically just a huge net buff. A killer gaining 5% movement speed is an absolutely massive, massive change. So even without any of these other changes here, that is a huge buff, and that's why I lean towards this being a significant buff towards the killer, because just the simple movement speed increase is very, very impressive. Next, they made main event kind of crazy. So main event was the thing where after you hit a bunch of blades, I think you hit it like 30, then you would be able to trigger main event. You'd be able to hold the main event charge for like 20, 30 seconds. I don't know the exact value. It was a significant amount of time. And when you use main event, you would just go, you would just throw knives extremely fast. It basically made Trickster as good as camping at like, compared to Bubba. You would basically be a ranged Leatherface during that time. You could obliterate anyone trying to do an unhook. You don't even have to be face camping. You can be proxy camping for it because you could be done at range. It was extremely powerful for camping. But the problem was it expired after a certain amount of time, and it took a long time to actually build it up. So it ended up being kind of balanced. But being targeted by that main event feels terrible because unless you're in an extremely strong tile, you're going to get absolutely destroyed. But as Trickster, it could also feel bad because sometimes as you're ending a chase hitting knives, your main event charges, and then you're just like, why does no one to use it on? So and now I just hooked the guy and it's half gone. I start a new chase and now it's gone again. So it was kind of frustrating for both sides again. So they made some crazy changes. So main event now requires 6 blades to charge. It used to be 30. I can't express how much of a change that is. So now it's just and you have main event. That's it. You have it already. I assume you'll be able to hold it for the same amount of time because they don't mention that whatsoever here. But they've also made it now last 5 seconds instead of 10 seconds, which I don't really think is that bad of a nerf. I think that's actually kind of fine because typically you're using main event to just pepper down one guy and you don't really want to use it any longer anyway. Hey. Hi. Here. In my lap. We'll talk about this more. Come here. You use it for a short burst of time. You're not really using it for an extended period. And going to 5 seconds from 10, not a big deal. Honestly, most times when I would play Trickster, I would just cancel it after 5 seconds anyway, because I've already downed the person I'm using it for, or I've realized I'm not going to be able to get them. So this being reduced to 5 seconds, I don't care about at all. That's barely a downside. The upside is now it takes 24 less blades to charge. That is a massive, massive buff in my opinion. You're going to be able to focus down somebody when you want to, and it's not really a big deal if you miss it because you can charge it up again really fast. The insane part is they actually have changed these add-ons that used to increase your throw rate to decrease the number of blades required to main event. So you can run Fizz Spin Soda and G-Wounds Autograph and make it so you need to hit 3 knives to main event. You can literally just go and you have main event. That is actually insane, and I'm very scared of that. I'll just say, because basically now all he has to do is hit 3, and as soon as you transition to a new tile, he's just going to throw 50,000 knives at you in the distance between 2 separate tiles. So if you don't have one right next to you, if you have any type of open area whatsoever, you're going to get absolutely shredded. So this is an insane buff. The movement speed is an insane buff. The increase to throw rate is an insane buff. And taking 8 instead of 6 is a slight nerf. So overall, this is a massive buff to Trickster. Now, I hate Trickster. I hate going against Trickster. I hate playing Trickster. I do not like Trickster whatsoever. And this will make more Tricksters play, so that is a little concerning. But it seems like they understand the problems with Trickster, which is a good sign. I don't know that this fixes them, though. They know the issue. I'm just not confident that this actually fixes the issue. It might actually make him even more annoying to go against now. So, again, this is something I'll have to feel out playing as him and playing against him. My initial impressions are, as a Trickster, this will feel significantly better. So if you play Killer, if you play Trickster, this is wonderful for you. If you play Survivor mostly, this is going to probably suck ass for you. So that's what I'm thinking so far. We'll have to see when it actually happens in game. But overall, yeah, great for Killer, very bad for Survivor from what I think. Next, Made for This. This is something that's probably good for Killer. Made for This was undoubtedly the strongest perk in the entire game. You just ran faster and also had another insanely powerful effect of giving you endurance when you healed somebody. So it was basically 2 perks in one. Made no sense to be that strong. It needed to be nerfed. And now it seems like it has finally been nerfed. So what happens now is you only gain the movement speed bonus when you are in deep wound. That is the mending state, like when a legion hits you or you take a hit while you have endurance. Now, design space-wise, I love this. This actually synergizes with its own effect perfectly. Now, when you heal somebody, you get the endurance effect, you're hit, and now you're in deep wound, and you can have that haste. Additionally, you can combine this with Dead Hard now, and you will still retain the haste because now it does not stop when you're exhausted. So Dead Hard made for this, already a very common scenario, will be even more common because now if you take the Dead Hard hit, now you're faster. And as you know, Deep Wound does not expire if you're running, so you can take that Dead Hard hit, and now for the rest of the entire chase, you're moving, ad made for this is additional speed. Still very good if you combine it with things that give you mending. So that is a side grade in my opinion. You know what? It's not a side grade. It is a nerf because getting into deep wound is not always something that you can do. Not every killer has a scenario that puts you into it, and not every time you're able to Dead Hard in the right way. So I would say overall, this will see less benefit of the haste. However, the synergy with Dead Hard has now increased, but people are already using it with Dead Hard, so not really that big of a deal. And now it's situationally based on you actually hitting the Dead Hard. So overall, this is a nerf to made for this, which is good. But it still seems like it's a usable perk, which is also good. Destroying it is bad, but it needed to be changed. It was too strong. So I kind of like what they did with this. The design space is really good on that. Garden of Joy has been, I'm assuming, nerfed because this is a very, very, very survivor-sided map. It seems like they've addressed the issue of windows. The main building had that extremely good window with the long dining table, and at the end was that window. If you go out of that window, you can go forward to a jungle gym. You can go right to that safe pallet. You had so many safe options looping that house. And I think they're going to probably nerf that a significant amount because, yeah, that shit was way too strong. Hopefully they address the chain together tiles on the shack side, which was, those were way too strong of a setup. You could have basically the old fractured couch head of shack into rock loop, into jungle gym, into rock loop, into that car loop. Basically, that entire half of the map was one connected loop, and I'm hoping they address that as well. They've also made some changes with breakable walls, so we'll see what they do there, but we need to actually see what they're going to do there. They said they rebalanced several pallet loops to bring them closer to the sweet spot where they're both useful to Survivor and the potential for killers to play around them. Basically, what that means is they're more unsafe loops. They're not just guaranteed. They're not like, jungle gyms where you basically have to kick the pallet. They're going to be more of those filler tiles, which I'm okay with as long as there's still some safe tiles on the map. I hate maps that are just all junk tiles, kind of like Hawkins. I think that stagnates the gameplay and forces every killer into an M1 scenario, but the M1s are easy, and killer skill expression is low because you can never really use your power against them. So we'll see. This is one of those things we have to visually see as well. But it seems like it's going to be nerfed, which is good because I think the map was too strong for Survivor. Red Forest is also being changed. God, thank you. They're making them smaller, finally. I think Temple of Purgation was not really too big. It was still a pretty big map, but it wasn't super large. However, Mother's Dwelling was ridiculously big. Thank God they're making these smaller. I think Mother's Dwelling has been the size outlier for like 3 years now. It's been so much bigger than every other map. I think Crotus Print Asylum is the next one that needs to be nerfed. But it seems like they're finally becoming smaller, which is very, very good. And then they're just checking out the loops as well. I didn't really have a huge issue with chain together tiles on Temple of Purgation. How on Red Forest, though, you could have some pretty insane setups outside of Shack. I remember I had a Shack into log loop into jungle gym into log loop into jungle gym on the northeast side of the map. So that was pretty insane. So hopefully they address things like that where chain together tiles were way too strong. But these maps getting size downgrades is very, very good. So overall, I'm pretty happy with almost everything in here. I'm a little worried about going against Trickster, but every other change seems to be pretty significant and decent. Probably the only complaint I would have is I just wish there was more. That one patch that we had, I got so spoiled where they addressed like 15 perks at once. We need more of that, man. We need like Predator and Beast of Prey and Territorial Imperative and Left Behind. And so there's just so many perks that just see zero use that I would love to see them give just wild and crazy buffs to. They've shown that they can do it. And I wish they would just go a bit crazier and actually start doing that again, because that was wonderful to see. And meta shakeups like that are great. Until they lead to Call of Brine Eruption Overcharge meta, which they did. So maybe that's why they're hesitant. Who knows? Overall, though, I would say this is a very good patch. Nothing too exciting. Trickster much stronger, made for this weaker. Map changes that are great. Player cards are going to be cool if they actually come from cool achievements. And yeah, we'll go from there. That's going to be it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.